A brief history of Cameo Acres in Danville, from racetrack to country suburban living. Articles, excerpts from news clips, and a few photos and stories from people that grew up there or live there today as we take a ride through some of its neighborhoods. This map of it was published in the Valley Pioneer January 1st, 1952. We begin our story with this 1937 topography map of the area as a reference point. The large oval shown was a Diablo Country Club reservoir close to what would become Cameo Acres in the early 50s. Before it became a neighborhood for a brief period in the mid-40s, there was a quarter horse race track at this location called Cameo Acres, which I assume is where the name for this neighborhood came from. The track drew large crowds of who witnessed a spirited and colorful exhibition of quarter horse racing that was to be held every Sunday. At the time, it was planned that the annual Lafayette Horse Show was also to be held there in September, as the directors of the Horsemen's Association had accepted the invitation of the Townsends, who donated the use of the grounds. But it all looks to have been very short-lived, as I find no references to it after 1945, and this may have been why. From an article in the Martinez News-Gazette, plans for a special race the following Sunday were knocked out when District Attorney Francis Collins notified the track operators no gambling would be permitted, and the scheduled program of racing was abandoned. Jumping to an article in the Ca Costa Times August 7, 1952 by Charles Bosley. Putting yourself into your home, Cameo Acres example of styling design. East of Danville, the Cameo Acres subdivision spreads out toward the foot of Mount Diablo. Its newest units push over the gently rolling foothills below the old mountain. The development represents a kind of residential growth familiar in this area, in California, the western states, and in its larger aspect, the country as a whole. Making it home. As important as this general aspect is the process of making a home your own begins in these subdivisions as soon as new families move in. There is an age-old inevitability about the way men persist in putting their personal stamp on the places in which they live. It is at once the embodiment of their individuality and their sociability. In that tradition, cavemen painted the rough walls of their caves. Indians painted and tasseled the hides of which their teepees were made. So also pioneers hung bits of curtain on oiled paper panels which, to us, were no windows at all. It's in the doing. In our time, materials available for the beautification of homes are without number. No longer is a craftsman's skill required in their satisfactory use, as they offer every opportunity to the man who would make of home a distinct, expressive thing. In Cameo Acres, the process of personalization is in full swing. Here the sunlight and heat are intense. Builders included a breezeway in the plans of each home, as outdoor living would certainly appeal to the people to live here. A shaded area open to the air on two sides was set between the main living quarters and the garage. What they did, and it is in what owners have done with this breezeway in there. Desire to make their homes their own is most evident. Some moved in outdoor lounge furniture. Some hung potted plants from eaves or ceiling. Others sheltered the area with a trellis. One young family set out to recreate a Hawaiian lanai. They built stonework planters, put slanted panels of blue glass in the front, planted large-leaved exotic plants inside. Another home has incorporated a simple but effective redwood fence across the breezeway entrance with a Dutch door which can be opened at top or bottom. Some of the changes in appearance are subtle, others quite pronounced. In some instances, clever application of paint alone results in surprising effects. Whatever the case may be, there is an optimistic tone evident in these developments, and to drive through them, to see the changes being made small and large is a satisfying experience. Onto to a few excerpts from an article, Yesteryear in the San Ramon Valley by Beverly Lane. The subdivision of Cameo Acres was built on quarter and third-acre lots with model homes forming the basis for all of the houses to be built there, which was a new approach for the valley. Some locals were critical of this type of development, calling it low-cost housing. Residents of Diablo Country Club were particularly upset because the homes and a sewage treatment plant were planned adjacent to Diablo Road, not far from them. In 1951, these three-bedroom homes with brick fireplaces, copper plumbing, two-wall furnaces, and cedar shingle roofs sold for $9,350. Veterans could put $50 down, pay $50 for closing costs, and own a house for $67 a month. Cameo's water originally came from the California Water Company, and the Southern Public Utility District set up a sewer plant to serve the subdivision. Unfortunately, the sewer plant functioned poorly. A settling pond failed and leaked on one of Diablo Country Club's golf course greens. There were some very unhappy people. Diablo sued the Cameo Acres homeowners for $30,000 and Cameo petitioned to get sewer service from the central Ca Costa sanitary district. This effort precipitated much debate throughout the valley because both Danville and Alamo had repeatedly voted down efforts to bring central sand pipes to the valley. An attempt to join CCCSD was defeated by a 2-to-1 vote around 1950. The supervisors finally allowed the Contra Costa County Sewer District to build a 30-inch line through Alamo and Danville with a smaller line extending to Cameo Acres and Diablo in 1955. A big deal for many obvious reasons, but none more so that veterans who could not get FHA loans until the sewer issue was resolved. Just a few of the many neighborhood stories. The first comes from Melissa Burkhart Hoffman. I grew up at the top on Plaza Circle until we moved to Alamo when I was about 10. Having the golf course in our backyard was an experience. My mom frequently got hit by golf balls while gardening. She started collecting them and sold them by the dozen at her garage sales. It was a great neighborhood experience. You could hike right up the mountain from there and get lost all day. We never came home until our moms started yelling. Other days we rode skateboards on our butts down Cameo, and sometimes got bloodied as we had no protective gear in those days. Jane Clary stated that her grandparents bought their home at 117 Montana Drive in 1955, and she bought the house from them when they moved out around 1966. And we had a beautiful view of Mount Diablo out the front window. Deborah Carr Griffiths remembers watching the Cameo neighborhood pool being built when she was around 4 or 5. My older brother was fascinated by the big trucks and earth movers, so my mom would take us over there sometimes to watch them. At the time, we were living in a house on the corner of Diablo Road and Green Valley Road. Renee Peasley Daniel, who lived on Verde Mesa, remembers sliding down the huge hill on Polito on cardboard before they built houses up there. They also drove a dune buggy that her dad built around the back of Cameo in the dirt area. Fun times. Tony Cardinale grew up at 101 Polito Road, at the corner of Cameo Drive and Polito Road starting in 1956, 2 years after he was born. His dad bought the lot where their home was built for $9,000 with a down payment of $500. Tony played baseball out in front of his house with the kids that lived on the street. The fathers of his friends on Polito Road, including my dad, were all World War II veterans. The home I grew up on still stands today. I believe I saw on Zillow that it sold in 2023 for $395,000. Many homes on Polito Road were demolished and rebuilt. This is a picture of my dad holding the lot sign where their new home would be built. Producer's note, it looks like Tony's former home's lot was subdivided and a second home is being built there. As Tony noted, some of the homes in Cameo Acres have been torn down and rebuilt or remodeled. Jan King Maziel was born and raised there, living at 134 Cameo Drive. It was a great neighborhood. So many kids. There were just 3 kids in my house, but I was surrounded by neighbors with many children in those tiny homes. My neighbors on either side had 6 and 8 kids, 10 across the street and 11 down on Maiden Lane. We all played together and explored outside all day. Great memories. Ending with this wonderful set of photos showing the home of Vicky Theotonio on Plaza Circle under construction in 1951. Danville, here we come. Many thanks to all of the Danville Facebook group members for their comments and photos of this neighborhood. My apologies to any that I was not able to include. Additional thanks to Beverly Lane and the Museum of the San Ramon Valley. Video, additional photos and text from the producer Mark Harrigan. Newspaper clippings from newspapers.com. Background music from Facebook Studio titled Rainy Sunday by Nick Gallant. This can be shared from my page. Thanks for watching.